Andrew. Andrew. We're going to show honor to the students who showed up on time. Okay? Notebooks out, ready to go. Okay. Number one, let's review where we're at in our science fair journey. If your break was ruined doing science fair, I'm sorry. I do not time. Thank you. So here we go. Your topic is done, approved. The weight has been lifted off the suffering, right? Next, background resources. You found them. You searched. You looked deep and hard. You did the whole World Wide Web, and you found them. Then, please be on time. All right? Be everyone on time. Okay. Next, I know I'm working on it. Or just be like, hey, I'm gonna be late. I appreciate it. Okay. Now, on your paper, this is what you're working on now. This is where we're trapped. Actually, we untrap that. Introduction. So, if I give you feedback, that is not your final grade, okay? That is for you to take that feedback, to modify it, to incorporate my feedback, incorporate the changes. If your introduction is still like 2 sentences, you're going to get slammed on the final, and that's really going to affect your grade. So I've given you feedback, you have to incorporate the feedback. Much like Bobby making bread all over break the whole time, just kneading and making more and more and more and more bread and more bread. She had to incorporate the flour in. She couldn't just plop the flour on top. It doesn't incorporate. Hi, please be on time. It was really a bathroom issue, wasn't there?
There was a line.
There was a line. I see it.
And by the time we get there, we don't know if there's going to be a line. That's what I do. All right.
Are you? Hold up.
That is not true.
No.
Okay, moving on. So, next. If you, on this previous stuff, you have to take that feedback and incorporate it. So, if you still have no hypothesis, if you've never stated that in your intro, make sure you do that by the final, which is due pretty soon, so that you can get credit for that. Otherwise, it's going to take everything. Materials should be a paragraph, and it should be a list, okay? Make sure you include everything. So if you're like, oh, hey, I did this thing, and then there's absolutely nothing to back that up, you lose, okay? Because it's not on the materials list, therefore someone cannot reproduce your lab, okay? Procedures, I gave feedback on that. Make sure you incorporate my feedback. If you still don't understand my feedback, seek understanding, okay? Otherwise, the issue will be that your experiment may not be testing what you actually desire it to do, okay? So I want to test gas mileage in my car, and so I'm going to go up a mountain and do that.
No.
Well, you're going to get horrible gas mileage. Well, I'm going to test gas mileage. I want to get the best gas mileage out of my car, so I'm going to go down a mountain. Is that accurate? No, because you're using no gas to get down the mountain, right? Gravity is pulling you down. You used all of it to go up. So it's if I gave you feedback this won't work, try this. It's because you're probably not testing the thing you mean to. So, very important. Or if I told you that you have to do 1,000 loaves of bread, sorry. But it's probably necessary.
Weren't you going to do 50 at first?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm doing 20
So,
now.
that was the break, and we are here. Your next due date is to have your data collected by Wednesday. Data collected by Wednesday. Okay, what I want to see from that is the following. I want a table with numerical data, and then on the side, your qualitative, so your words that describe the data. So, as Dylan's doing his, and he puts no error in there, and nothing happens, he's going to write, nothing happened, force 0. But he's going to be like, of course nothing happened, because there was no error, right? Or going to the other extreme, you'll have no fuel, and you'll be like, there was no fuel, so obviously nothing happened. It was a bottle with air in it, or a tube. Okay? So you want to have those words to back up what you're doing too, so that you do not go back to your data later and you're like, why is this one weird? Oh, because something popped off or something broke or whatever it might be. It was a warmer day or versus a colder day. Okay? So that should be done by Wednesday. My intention, my heart's intent, is to give you time in class to be working on that. Some of your projects will allow you to do that in class, and we can go in the lab and knock those out. If you've already done your project, great. If you've not done your project, then I would use the time in class, if it is something you can do in class, in the lab, to do that. So we will have today, tomorrow, and Wednesday in class for like science fair, and then I'm gonna do like no science fair stuff until I start nitpicking presentations and boards. So, like, this is my gift to you, okay? You'll notice that data is due Wednesday, but results are due Friday. So the data, if you don't get it done by Wednesday, I mean, you're gonna lose like a homework grade and the world's gonna move on. But if you don't have it by Friday to give your results, that's the really hard part, because your results should contain some sort of graph that describes things. So for Fabi's project, she's doing flour and
Water.
no, your project's annoying. Let's do Emma's project. So Emma has, she's doing smoke bombs based on what, like sugar and what else?
Sugar and like another salt.
Okay, so there's gonna be like a sugar to salt ratio, right? And as she changes that ratio, she's measuring two things. She's measuring the like bigness of it, and then how long it lasts. So her data is going to result in a graph that shows how big the like cloud is, if I may. And then, which, pray for Emma, because she has to measure bigness. I don't know.
How do you measure that?
It's kind of hard to do. Yeah. You could do height. I guess, like, take a video of it and then just, like, see how much of that is covered and eyeball it. But the real one is duration, or how long it lasts. So maybe these ones last longer and then it goes down. But then I challenged her, hey, why don't you combine those and see which one does the best of both? So she could multiply these two together and come up with a third graph that gives her that optimal salt to sugar ratio that gives you the best overall. Okay. So those graphs have to be in the results section. So for each of your experiments, you've collected data, then you have to represent it graphically, because you're going to tell me it met the hypothesis or it didn't meet the hypothesis based on your graph. Okay. That should be how you can represent that data. Okay. So there should be graphs, there should be qualitative data, or results, and quantitative. So let's jump to the example here. The example. Okay, so results. Number one, there should be a table. This is going to be straight from your data that you plug in, that is your quantitative results. Then some sort of graph. Some sort of graph. Make sure you have your headings correct. Make sure that you have all of the things in your graph that we talked about last week when I went on my, or 2 weeks ago, when I went on my graphing rant. Any equations you use should have one example of how you solve the equation. So, like if you use percent error, you should have one example for one single data point that you plugged in, that you solved for the percent error for that thing, okay? Just one. I don't want to see all of them, but I want to see an example of how you used that equation. So if you use stoichiometry to convert between mass of something, you went through the mole ratio, you went through the molar mass, and you got to something else. I want you to show one iteration of that whole work. so that I see that you did it correctly. Okay? It also shows people reading your lab later who are going to reproduce your lab in 50 years because they're so excited about flour to water ratio.
You look so different.
So excited that they're like, oh man, I want to reproduce Bobby's work because it's so good. Then they're going to look at it and they're going to go, oh, Bobby did the equation right. This must be a legit conclusion. I don't have to reproduce the work because she did it correctly. Or if they look and they're like, they plugged in wrong, or they did the equation's not right, then it also tells somebody, hey, I can't trust this work. So that's why you do at least one run through. And then qualitative results can be a little bit more flowery and prosy and write a paragraph. I think they formatted these wrong because I want them all the way on the left. So ignore that. But you're describing what happened with words. Okay? So that is up to results. Again, I want tables. I want graphs. I want your data. Okay. With that said, many of you have labby experiments that do need time in the lab. So if we need to have materials ready and stuff, yeah, let's talk about that. So here are the different ways that you can use this time. Today, tomorrow, Wednesday. Number one, you can actually do your experiment. So if you bring in this stuff, just do it here. Number two, you can be writing on, like writing the rest of your paper if you've already done your experiment. You can be asking me, hey, is this the way you want the graph formatted? Is this how I would introduce this? Is this good? Third, you can do nothing. No, that's horrible. What's up?
The feedback you gave us?
Yeah, no, like you can do so much. You can incorporate the feedback, you can write a conclusion, you can write qualitative results, you can fix things. Use this time. If you're really ambitious, you can start working out what you're going to do for your presentation board, because that's going to be the next thing. What's the presentation board going to be? Obviously, your objective is already short and sweet. You have to take your introduction and pare it down to one-line bullet points. So it's like a lot of wordsmithing on your part to take a giant one whole page of text and make it into, here's what the data or the research suggested, here's what we did, here's the hypothesis. So you want everything to be like short and sweet. The materials, I would almost be happy if you left. I mean, you could put them on there, but on your presentation board, you're not going to put like dumb things like word perfect or what. I guess you need water. Probably wouldn't put like the beaker on there. So you would just put the materials that are significant that you wouldn't already have in the lab, as opposed to everything that you put in your report. Procedure, you want to slim that down to bullet points again. Hey, do this, do that, do this, but not complete sentences. So there is plenty of work to do science fair wise. If you guys are still confused or lost or scared, yeah, now would be a good time. So with that said, we are going to travel far to the other side of the building, to the lab, so that you guys can start looking around, especially if you're, like I know you need to find stuff for your lab in the lab. So, cool. That's it. That's travel.